and welcome back to Good Morning Nintendo. After a rather brief hiatus, we are finally back to discuss the E3 news and what's been going on with us. So anyway, Dom, do you want to kick it off? What have you been up to? What have you been playing?
Well, I've been up to life. Just, you know, uh, adult stuff and all this other nonsense. But in terms of what I've been playing, man, since we last left off, um, I definitely played Near Replicant. I had a good time with that. Bravely Default 2, had a good time with that. Let's see. Oh, right now I'm playing through Link Between Worlds. I picked up a bunch of stuff. And I think I'm gonna. Oh, I just picked up Scarlet Nexus, so that's gonna be probably like what I'm gonna dedicate most of my time towards. Honestly, I've been buying more games than I've been playing them. But what's new? But yeah, I'd say right now, the usual, I would say slate of games that I normally shuffle through, and then so there's been some good stuff coming out that I've picked up and that I'll play when the time is right. But what about you? I think
okay.
we last left off. You were on Valhalla, right?
Yeah, I did.
Mm-mm. Persona.
We did me and my brother did a Persona 4 Golden spoiler cast when we finished that game. And I think that might have been like the last game I actually beat recently. I mean, I've been kind of jumping back and forth between things. Like, I think shortly after that was when we all got the new season of Fortnite, or like the Aloy news, and I kind of jumped into that for a bit. And I played Fortnite for a good couple of weeks. Right now, and I think there was like a few things I was jumping here and there between, but right now I'm trying to get through the oh the PS5 upgrade for oh, I can't talk today at all. For Final Fantasy VII Remake finally dropped. So
Integrate. That's right.
I'm finally, like, I think I picked that game up the week before they announced the PS5 old remake. Upgrade. So I finally jumped into that now. I've been enjoying that. It's just like, and I mentioned it to you the other day. It's such a pretty game. It's just like I'm maybe about halfway through this version of the remake. Oh, so like, and that has having not really played any Final Fantasy VII beforehand. I'm not really feeling like it's dragging, or like it's puff, or it's all what you call um filled with filler, because that's kind
Okay.
of the big thing people that are familiar with Final Fantasy VII have said about it, and that's because of it all. Like, you told me the other day, Midgar section is supposedly like 3 or 4 hours in the regular Final
Yeah,
Fantasies. It's two.
between like you could finish it in like 3 to 5. 5 hours is leisurely. Like talking to all NPCs. I mean, you can really do it in like two if you're just kind of running through. But yeah, I would say play it safe about like between 3 to 5 for sure.
Yeah. So,
But
but
yeah, well, it's I did actually pick Integrate up too, and even like I played it when it came out on PS4, and it is one of those like stop and stare games where you're just like, whoa. There's so many like in all moments where you're like, this looks great, like so good. And dude, I would say that's a good Final Fantasy for you to play for the first time. Like that's a really good one to jump into. I just didn't like how it felt. Like, well, I mean, I guess, like you said, for you, you're kind of in like the prime position playing it, but it was just felt so linear to me and so many things. I was just like, well, to be fair, I went in with the expectation of Final Fantasy 15. I wanted like open world like that, and I should have definitely probably went in with. safer expectations. But it's still a great game. Combat's good, music's good, looks phenomenal. But what else have you been playing?
I mean, that's really, I mean, like, I can't really tell you. It's been mostly on PS5 stuff. I'd have to, like, open up my PS5 and go back through what I've been recently playing to tell you what else has been going on. It's just like, gaming's kind of been on with the weather getting nice. I've been trying to get out a bit more, and it's just like, oh, my schedule's a little bit hectic. But do you want to just go ahead and get started on going into our E3 rock block?
Oh yeah. All right, man.
Well, let's start off with the
All
big
right.
thing, the one thing that I know that me and you are both excited about. Let's talk about that old Legend of Zelda trailer.
Yeah.
So, okay, we already posted my reaction and me freaking out about it onto the YouTube channel, but what did you have to think about that?
So I will say, I think they showed a decent amount. Like I'm content with what they showed. I don't think it was like too little. I think it looked great. I thought they showed us a good amount. It felt like you know what it really felt like to me? Um, it felt like seeing a true sequel. Like it when I saw it, I was like, okay, this is expanding upon what I've played. Like there's enemies that you saw that have new variations that you can tell where it's like, okay, this is a progression of that enemy. So obviously we'll be fighting that in the sequel. The but it also did the classic Nintendo thing where it also gave me more questions than answers for a lot of things. But I figured that was to be expected. Like I definitely knew we weren't getting like uh, they weren't going to tell us pretty much anything. So I was like, okay, totally get that. But dude, I mean, I was stoked. I thought it was great. I think they showed us just enough. The only thing I would say I was kind of bummed out about was
The
the
date?
we're aiming for 2022. Yeah, which I'm like, I don't know, man. You're a firm believer, and you've made me a firm believer in the Nintendo is going to Nintendo. And if Nintendo does Nintendo, you can't believe a word they say. They'll say this and they'll do that. But Zelda just has that notorious history of being delayed or postponed or
Well,
whatever it may be.
well,
So
for
yeah,
me,
no, it's up in the air at this point.
that the history of it being delayed was really came more to all from Breath of the Wild, in my opinion. Because like at one point on my Facebook page, I had like this banner that was like promotional art from Nintendo, and it had like Link sitting on a horse, and it had like this watermark of 2015 across that, and like that Breath of the Wild font and everything. And I'm just like, didn't come out till 2 years later. So
Yeah.
it's just like all I've 2021 felt right, so but with how this past year's been, it's when everything being crazy that it you kind of can't try and hold them to anything. Oh, for me, well, the big thing that that trailer did was it made me understand why they were putting out Skyward Sword remastered, because you get to that point in the trailer where oh this person, I mean, like, oh, we're gonna get to this later, oh, because we're not sure if it's Link or not, is jumping down and through the clouds,
Mm.
and it's just like that shot right there is like exactly how the Skyward Sword trailer really kind of kicks off, and it's just like, oh, they are seriously invoking Skyward Sword vibes here. They're either going to be drawing heavily from from gameplay mechanics or from the story in that game. So I wasn't jived to go back and play a Skyward Sword at all. Really, like I was gonna do it reluctantly and be like, okay, let me try the new control schemes. Let's see if this does anything for the game at all. But that all, but now like it's just like, okay, the next game which I'm excited for is gonna be using some things from this game I don't really like. I'll go back and give the other game a try just to have it fresh in my memory.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Uh, I think it's more lore wise that it's gonna kind of piggyback from Skyward Sword. Um, I don't I that's kind of where I am with it. And two, I think the Aonuma was really like emphasizing the fact that like Skyward Sword is the start of everything. Like it wasn't just like a, oh, for the first time you can play Skyward Sword. Well, for most people it can be their first time playing Skyward Sword, but he really wanted to talk about the fact that like this is where the story began. So I'm thinking lore wise it's going to tie heavily into Breath of the Wild 2, which can, for me I think it's great, but then on the other end of the spectrum it's like there's already that notorious like I'm not paying $60 for a Wii port and blah 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 blah. So a
Yeah.
lot of people literally might not play it and miss out on like on a bunch. And I think, and this is most likely not going to happen, but I think that they're going to add a new cutscene or some new story element to Skyward Sword just for this particular version. That's going to tie right into Breath of the Wild. That's what I
Uh,
think. Lore wise, because obviously like aesthetic and like, Zelda's got the weirdest timeline known to man. But I think lore wise, they're gonna do something that's gonna tie right into the Breath of the Wild universe, I suppose.
we're gonna get funky mode.
That's my theory on it. Honestly, you never freaking know. Because what if, right? But that's my running theory. I definitely think that we're gonna have something like that. And I'm stoked to play it, I think it'll be I mean, gosh, it's not a solid Zelda game, but I think it'll be fun, especially for people who haven't played it.
All right. So
And I
how?
knew you were kind of on the fence about it before, and now you're like, all right, I'm definitely playing.
All right. So do you want to talk about like some of the rumors and discussion about like that people have around, or what's going to be happening in this new game, or do you just want to move on to all other other topics?
Oh, dude, let's go right into that speculation of
Okay.
what we think what's going to happen.
Okay. I'm gonna like
I want
just
to hear your theories.
All right, so I want to start with my theory that I kind of made up off the seat of all my pants after like hearing like that this was going to have something to do with Skyward Sword, and this is just crazy. But it's just like my whole thing. My immediate thought was like, if Skyward Sword is the beginning of the timeline and Breath of the Wild is the end of the timeline, and like you see all these
Mhm.
like you see everything like the Hyrule Castle coming out of the ground, and you see all these sky islands and everything else. It's like, what if this is the creation of Skyloft, and it turns out that the all of Zelda lore is just a giant circle. So I was like, that was like my kind of off the
Hmm.
wall theory. It's just like this is like they keep saying like, oh, history repeats itself with Zelda, or like the legend, like it's a like how they talk about whenever the official timeline changes. It's just like, oh, it's a legend. You find out new things about the legend as like you discover things, and like that changes things around in the history. It's just like, it's like, what if they just really commit to that and they just really turn it into a giant circle? Oh, was my first thought. What do you think about that?
Well, honestly, I didn't even give think about that at all. And now that you say it, that would be I would love that. I think that would be gosh, man, like that really put it on like a grander scale. No, that would be awesome. I think that it's going to be um I think it's going to be more of Zelda games. Well, I think Breath of the Wild 2 is essentially gonna start kind of dipping its toes into the fact that there are parallel u- universes in like the Zelda timeline and or branching paths, different whatever you want to call it. But I think Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be the game that like in terms of like the lore establishes that like legitly is like this is, this happens. This is true. Think of it like I guess you're like a I know like um like an alternate like world things like I think they're finally gonna bring that to like to light and be like, oh no, like not this is like not just um like it's definitive, like it's real, and I think Breath of the Wild 2 is gonna actually demonstrate that, in my opinion, because I think there's gonna be a grander um I would, yeah, no, I do think I think they are going to put more focus on the actual narrative itself, and I think they're going to expand on a lot. And I think, like you said, it's they're going to tie a lot of things together with this, but I also think they're going to still like they're going to do that, and then they're going to do their traditional like, but wait, there's also this world and like time like it's just going to go all over the place.
Perfect.
But I think they're gonna acknowledge the fact that like yeah, time travel exists in this universe, all this other stuff, and that way people can be like, oh, okay, cool. Not where it's just up for debate or it's just only in the Hyrule Historia, which has I'm pretty sure they've already changed that like once or twice since they
Oh yeah.
first released it
The
to
Hyrule
add
Historia
games
came
in.
out, and then like
Um,
yeah, there was like a like they changed it at some point already. It was just like oh, but do you want to hear what the prevailing theory is? Like there's a big theory that kind
I
of
do.
all right. So here's the thing: that trailer that we saw, apparently a lot of people think that there was a lot of asset interchanging in that. So like there's a lot of shots where you see Link in his blue tunic, and apparently a lot of people are thinking
Oh yeah.
that putting that they're changing him out for someone else. But like a theory is like you're actually going to play this in three parts or like three different perspectives. Like we get a shot of Zelda falling down underground, and then like there's a shot of like oh, what we see of Link with like this shield that's like a flamethrower in what looks like an underground cavern.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Oh, and then like the all the shots that we see of the person in like this Zonai sort of tunic, or like what a lot of people have been talking about as a Zonai type outfit might actually be not Link, but instead hydrated Ganon or pre-dehydrated Ganon, and that part is actually taking place in the past, and we might see the first incarnation of Ganondorf. Do you
Hmm.
need me to explain that a bit more?
No,
Because
I know where you're coming from,
we're
but I'm just trying to think if that's the direction they would take it in.
yeah, because how Skyward Sword, like the big thing about Skyward Sword is that is the first instance of Zelda. That's the first instance of Link. But we don't see Ganon there. We see Demise, and Demise curses Link and Zelda like, oh, we will always be locked in the struggle. So like we will. So we see uh so like we see Demise isn't really Ganon or Ganondorf, but like we haven't seen our first instance of Ganon or Ganondorf. So a lot of there's a theory that this person who we see with like this kind of robot Sheikah arm is actually going to turn out to be someone that becomes the first Ganon or the first Ganondorf.
Oh.
Because we never have we don't have like the details of how um the Gerudo came to be a race or
Gerudo,
anything like
yeah.
that. And like a lot of things like in Breath of the Wild, we had a lot of these structures around the world that were left behind by the Zonai tribe, which was introduced in Breath of the Wild, and there are places around there from like in the structures that you see birds that look like the loft wings from Skyward Sword. So there's a theory that whoever this person is with like the green like shoulder garb or whatever, it this might actually have something to do with the Zonai tribe.
Hmm. Well, now that you mention that, I okay, that kind of just eradicates everything
Yeah, I
I
don't go
thought
deep
of.
into rumors except
Um,
if it's Zelda, apparently.
yeah. I mean, honestly, I I would like that. And there you can even find like for some reason the first thing that came to my head when you were talking about that was like finding Ganon's horse.
Oh yeah, the
And
monster
it's
horse.
in Breath of the Wild and it's obviously not tamed. Yeah, and so like why obviously we know like we could just chalk that up to like it's just fan service, it's in the game because it's a staple, but like little things like that they've been known to just like because yeah, it's not like like readily available, like it's not a part of like the main campaign, like you have to go look for that horse and actually find it. So yeah, like that would be like oh man, yeah, okay, that I'm like getting excited thinking about that. That would be really cool where we find like the figure out like the birth of the group Ganondorf. And yeah, man, wow, that would be so freaking cool. I would literally, and that would set the stage for, oh my gosh, that would set the stage for so many other games. So holy, whoa, other games in the series. um wow, you know what, yeah, yeah, I could see that. Oh man, now I'm so excited. I really wish they do something with that. But who knows? Because obviously, Hyrule Warriors ended in a Hyrule Warriors took things to Age of Calamity took things to
Oh yeah, because we
uh
basically have a
yeah, I
timeline
mean
split there
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah,
like
literally.
spoilers
Like
for Age of Calamity. It end like they bill it as the whole 100 what happened 100 years before Breath of the Wild, but it ends differently. It like they
yeah,
stopped Ganon. There was a time split there. So you have the Breath of the Wild timeline and you have the Age of Calamity timeline. So,
yep.
oh,
And I'm assuming with I know we got the first DLC, but I think the DLC that comes out in November or later this year is going to be more of like the story driven DLC where they go more into like, I'm
character
assuming why that happened
vignettes.
because you can't just, yeah, you can't just like, you can't end it like that. Come on. Like that was just like, really, dude? Like, oh no, guess what? Like, come on. But they always leave that door open, which is sometimes it's not.
All right.
But man, that really excites me just hearing these theories and these ideas.
All right. So,
But yeah, I guess we can go more into E3.
yeah, it was like I was about to say. It's like it's 22 minutes in, and we've only been talking about Zelda, so we got to move on to other things. So, were there any other big standouts to you from Nintendo's E3?
Oh, 110%. It's got to be Metroid Dread.
Yes, I mean the thing.
Metroid Dread for sure.
Yeah, the interesting
I
for
mean, the idea that it was. Oh, you can go.
the interesting thing for me on that is the fact that like was like it was just like, oh cool, we're getting a new Metroid. It's just like I wonder whatever happened to Metroid Prime. But like it's just like but then like afterwards I went and like saw other people's reactions to it, and I had no idea about Metroid Dread being a thing from like 19 years ago. Or like it was supposed to be the sequel to Metroid Fusion on the Game Boy Advanced. And it's just like that's crazy to me that like that this game is somehow coming out still.
Yeah, and that they've held on to it. I mean, obviously, probably whatever they development was completely scrapped, but the idea they held on to for such a long time was awesome. And I remember when I saw that logo, I was like, Dread? Like what? Like obviously it's the fifth mainline Metroid. But man, like I saw some screenshots of it and it just looks so good, and it kind of like I'm going through the main like the 2D Metroid games now just so I can kind of prepare myself for Metroid Dread, and I want to kind of get caught up with the lore and everything too. And yeah, it's just like I like just seeing that was because like nowadays it's just like 2D games are kind of like just non they're I don't know, like we don't see that heavy emphasis from Nintendo anymore with like 2D games, excluding New Super Mario Bros. And some other stuff. But one question that's been raised about Metroid Dread, that I am on the fence about is, um, in case, well, most people don't, I would assume most people don't know, but like Metroid's never been like a heavy hitter for Nintendo. Like I think the best-selling Metroid game we've got was Metroid Prime, and that sold like 2.84 million copies, which is okay, but like that's the best-selling title in the game. That's close to like the best-selling. That's a little more than the best-selling Pikmin game. So yeah, I mean it's never really been a heavy hitter. So it kind of boils down to like, let's see how well this does, because that's gonna pretty much lay out the groundwork if we're gonna see more of this or not. Because obviously they need the fan demand and they need a good response for it. But we're in a weird situation because we have the Switch effect, where just literally like almost anything Nintendo publishes or puts out on the Switch does so well. It's like just received well, and it sells extremely well. I'm pretty sure almost every main line, every series that first party Nintendo title that's been public that Nintendo's put out on the Switch has become a bestseller in its series. So it'll be interesting, on to see how that goes on, in terms of how well it's received, commercially. But I'm stoked for it, man. It looks freaking awesome. And those amiibos that I'm probably gonna have to pay a scalper for. I really hope I don't. But yeah, those amiibos look so good. And the special edition, which I missed out on too. But that's just the world we live in. Everything is scalped and sold out in like 2 seconds, and then it's ridiculous.
Give up on
Oh, dude,
amiibo.
what? Are
Go
those
for
amiibo cards?
cards. Yeah, I showed you these before. I'm just saying,
Oh.
give up
Oh
on the
yeah,
amiibo.
yeah.
Just go cards. They take these are all the Zelda amiibos. They take up a lot less space.
Dude, that is a good idea. So, was there anything like that stood out from, I guess we're going to be on Nintendo for a bit, but is there anything that stood out, from their presentation that you were really like caught off guard by or didn't expect or just most excited for?
I mean,
Excluding Zelda, of course.
like I want to bring up like the Game and Watch again. It's just like I just think that it was so funny that like they're making another one of those. But like up
Yeah.
until they announced that like oh, and I'm probably actually gonna get one because I'm the Zelda nut that I am. But also like the fact that they put the original or Link's Awakening on it, I was just like, oh, if it was
Oh
just the
yeah.
first two games, I wouldn't have bought it. But like the fact that it's like the grayscale, or Link's Awakening, I was just like, oh, that's actually kind of cute. And I have a soft place in my heart for that game, so I'm probably gonna pick it up just because it has that game on it. Oh,
Yeah, I don't blame you.
but so that's the thing that I'm kind of looking forward to that a little bit. Oh, of course, Metroid Dread was kind of a pop off. Oh, like the thing that I really like, there was like a lot of solid stuff in that presentation. I don't remember most of it, but like Advanced Wars coming back is just
Yes,
like
Advance Wars 1 and 2, Reboot Camp. Yes.
yeah, it's just like there's a lot of stuff that like was in that direct that like didn't really exactly speak to me, but I was just like, oh, I know there's an audience for this. Oh, I know that there is a group of people right now that are very excited that this is happening, and it was just like, so it wasn't like a lot of huge moments for me in it. Like I think one of my biggest disappointments was like at one point we see like all these bananas come across the screen, and I was just like, oh, they're gonna announce this rumored Donkey Kong game that's been going on, and then it turned out to be Super Monkey Ball. I was a bit disappointed, but I'm just like, I know there's a large group of people out there that are excited about Super Monkey Ball coming to Switch. So
Yeah, and I know, a new Donkey Kong game has been like heavily rumored. It's anniversary, its 40th anniversary. Um, so yeah, I mean, I was disappointed by that too, but I think I'm a firm believer in the fact that, oh, excuse me, we're gonna get a next direct in, September-ish, October-ish, just to set the scale for 2022 to give us a little more info. And I think we'll see one next year. But yeah, Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp, the Danganronpa series 1, 2, and 3, and then Another one coming out that was awesome. Shin Megami Tensei 5 looked really good, like really, really good. And that game was shown off during the first presentation for the Switch. So we're finally getting that. Um, what else really stuck out for me? The Game& and Watch was cool. Oh, dude, Fatal Frame. Fatal Frame, Maiden of Black Waters. That is coming back, and that's coming to all platforms too. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, like that was another thing. I was
Yeah,
just
that was
like,
originally released on the Wii U. So yeah.
yeah, that was another thing. I was just like, oh, I know there's an
Um,
audience here, but it isn't really up my alley.
Trying to think. I know there were some other like there was some like oh DBZ Kakarot. That's pretty cool. I like those weird Switch ports, and I thought that was like I'm definitely gonna pick that up and just see how it performs like on the Switch. They didn't talk about it, but Nino Kuni 2 is coming to the Switch,
Oh,
which is PS4, Sony, and PC exclusive. Yeah, and I'm actually really stoked for that because I adored that game when I played it on the PS4. Um, yeah, that's pretty much like I was kind of a little disappointed by the fact that we didn't get any update on Nintendo Switch Online. That'd have been nice, or at least like give us a little more groundwork for that, just your plans in the future, something. But yeah, I think there's overall solid. It just felt like an E3 Direct. Like there was a lot of games that were up my alley, even if they weren't up my alley. Like you said, I knew there was audience for these series. They had the oh, and one more thing, which was nice. And yeah, it just felt like it was good to kind of be in E3, I guess. And I think they did it safe. I think it was just like they just hit my expectations. It was just like, cool, perfect. This is, what I was looking for. But yeah, I guess that's it for Nintendo. So I guess we could dive right into Xbox if you want.
yeah. It's just like, all right. So, what? Yeah. Do you want to go first on your thoughts on this, or do you want me to go first on this?
Um, I can go first
Okay.
on
So,
Xbox because I really don't have much to say about Xbox.
okay. Well, I'll
Um,
say my opinion
I
then. This.
think they
Oh, okay. So my opinion is like, as someone who doesn't currently own an Xbox and like would like to be sold on their ecosystem because I believe that Game Pass is a good deal. It's just like I was just like, I want to see games that like have not been on Xbox being presented. It's just like, or I think like things that I care about. Like I enjoy the kind of cartoony, family oriented platformers. I enjoy adventure games, and it's just like, and like I just didn't see that at all with their press conference. It's just like it seemed a lot more like Xbox being Xbox, continuing to be the bro box. It's just like there was all shooters and like vehicle games is what I saw all is what all we saw at that presentation, and that's just didn't do anything for me. It's just like the only games that like I was really interested in were like Psychonauts, which is coming to PS5 as well, or PS4, I think. PlayStation's coming to PlayStation. Contraband, but that was just like that wasn't even like a cinematic trailer. It was like everything. I'm pretty sure everything. It was just like a camera moving through an environment, and was like that looks like it's gonna be a lot of Uncharted vibes to me. And then we also have all, and then we have what was I'm gonna forget the name here. It was like it wasn't Back for Blood. It was like the vampire shooter game,
oh
something Moon or
Red Moon,
Red Moon.
I think.
Yeah, that could be it. But
I could
it's
be totally wrong. That just goes to show. Like, yeah.
yeah, it's just like I just remember it's a
Like,
vampire shooter game. It was just like
yeah.
that looked interesting, but like it was all cinematic. It wasn't gameplay at all. So like until I really know what the gameplay of that game's gonna look like, it's nothing that's gonna be super surprising to me. It's just like it looks like it'll be kind of like Borderlands esque almost, like but like like a 4-person co-op shooter thing, it's just like I'm not sure if that's gonna grab me and make me want to buy an Xbox at all. But yeah, that's where I'm at. It's just like I wanted to be sold on their ecosystem, and there wasn't anything there that made me like, oh, that's worth buying a several $100 old console to get in and play that.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. Not only did they not sell me on Xbox's ecosystem like at all, everything they showed was just so samey. It felt like it was almost the same game, just with a different name. And and it's weird because from what I've seen online, like a lot of people are praising Microsoft's presentation, and like no one's telling me anything that like stood out. They just keep saying they had a lot of games,
Yeah, it's
which
just
is, I guess, in theory, like that's good because you're at a games presentation, but it's like, were any of those games like outstandish, or were any of those games like, oh, like, oh, that's something, like it just felt like more Xbox games that like don't appeal to me, and they're not even some, and some are exclusive and some aren't. I would say the biggest thing that they did was finally come out and say like, all right, Starfield's going to be exclusive to the Microsoft ecosystem. So like that was cool, but for the most part, it was just pretty stale for me. I mean, like I think there's definitely a lot for people who like those series, and it to each his own. But personally, for me, I was just like, okay, showed a lot of games, that's cool, but nothing, up my alley, or nothing that appealed to me like in the slightest. Not even like nudge me in the direction of like purchasing an Xbox, which I honestly I don't think I will anytime soon. Yeah, overall I think they were pretty low. Actually, no, it gets worse than this. It gets pretty bad. I guess we could go right into you
odds
know
and
what?
ends.
Let's wrap up Capcom's because it's gonna take like 2 seconds. So Capcom, I will say they told us what they were going to show us, and they did. So, like, I can't really say much about Capcom because they literally said, "Hey, we're going to show you more." By the way, actually, this is a good time since we're on it. I did you play the demo for Monster Hunter Stories 2: Wings of Ruin?
No, I mean I looked at it. I mean, like I was thinking about downloading it, but like I haven't really. I really just want to try and get through Final Fantasy VII right now, and that's where I'm at. It's just like haven't really had the urge to pick anything up, and I really need to get to modding my Vita as well. I haven't done that yet, and
Oh yeah.
I don't think I'm going to platinum on Persona 4 at this point because it's been like 2 or 3 months since I picked up that game. So I don't think I need to worry about
Ooh,
like messing with my save data on that. So it's just like it'd be fun.
yeah.
I kind of want to turn the Vita into like a little handheld emulator for like old like Zelda handheld games, and like maybe go back and like Metroid Fusion or something like that on it. But that's about that's where I'm at with it.
All right. Well, I did play it, and it's actually pretty good. I was kind of blown away by it. I still don't think it's gonna be a day one pickup for me, but like it's on my radar now. But obviously bias, it's a turn-based RPG, so like chances of me liking it were already gonna be pretty high. But yeah, so Capcom told us what they were gonna show us, and it almost felt like a like the biggest waste of time and money for everyone. Like all of those could have just been broken down to trailers you released on YouTube. Like you did not need a presentation whatsoever for any of that. Any of that.
Yeah,
But I guess we could, if you want to start have any opinion on on Capcom's, I guess.
I mean, like it's more of an opinion in general. It's just like a lot of the common consensus around this E3 is just like there were like 20 some different um directs or like streams, presentations, whatever you want to call them, and like a lot of those were like repeat were like there were people that were showing the same trailer at like 3 or 5, 6 different events. So like you see things a lot. Like I saw to name one is just like 2 Point Campus. I saw
Oh
that a
yeah, yeah.
lot as like oh, you mean I saw um whatchamacallit, I saw Square Enix's Guardians of the Galaxy at both the Square Enix event and at Nintendo. And I was just like, they did a deeper dive at the Square Enix oh, presentation, but like there's a lot of stuff that like if we had boiled it down and like we only saw like one of these like each thing at like one different at one presentation, I feel like it would have gotten a whole lot quicker. Like there was like a lot of indie stuff as well. So like if you there were like tons of streams for just like going to watch and see the new indie stuff. So I feel like that was something nice. This is like I think usually when we get the typical E3 where it's just like the games all where it's like the games outlets like trying to go to the big things. Like they want to talk about the things that everybody wants to talk about. Like what is Xbox doing? What is Sony doing? What's all Nintendo doing? And then like a lot of the indie stuff gets kind of swept to the wayside because it doesn't get as much views. I feel like the indies kind of having kind of their own streams was kind of a nice change this year. But apart from that, like I didn't really watch a whole lot of the other streams outside of Xbox and Nintendo. Like I watched like quote unquote watch the Square Enix one. Like I was sitting here playing Final Fantasy VII, and I had like people reacting to the direct over on the other side, and I was kind of paying attention to it. But there was like outside of the all Guardians thing, that was like the only thing that really got my attention.
Oof, man, Square Enix. Good gosh. Yeah, it was pretty much just like Guardians of the Galaxy. And
They showed us that.
the Final Fantasy Origins. I played the demo of that. And it seems like it's just got some work that needs to be done for sure. The only thing that annoyed me with Square Enix's was the fact that they were like, all right, I know you all want these beloved games readily available as they should be. Final Fantasy 1 through 6, right? And oh, yeah, no, we'll give them to you on PC and mobile. Like if there's console support later down the line, like I don't know. I just think it's like why not like oh gosh, I
Like
don't know.
I
It's
mean,
just like
like
oh
if
finally like I've been wanting this forever,
it would
and then they're
seem
just like oh no, but only PC and mobile.
it would seem like it would be easy to put that on Switch because like Switch you kind of get a lot of these like mobile games ported over to it as well, and it's just like that's like the one thing that's just like if you're putting it on Steam and mobile, I would at least expect it to be like on the Switch as well, or personally, but well, yeah, it just seems like a weird choice.
Oh yeah.
Like it's just like Square, like the big criticism I've heard about Square's whole presentation is just like, well, Square, you told us exactly what you were going to present, and we were still disappointed at what you had to present. Like, there was like a lot of hype going
Hmm.
into the all to the or like the Final Fantasy Origins thing because it's supposed to be like a Dark Souls esque type game. So it was like, oh yeah, Final Fantasy, but Dark Souls. Give it to me. And then like they showed the game, and apparently it did not live up to that hype at all. Like apparently it just like looks bad. And I think there was like another game that they were showing off that was like I think it was just like a lot of criticism about it was like it was really blurry. They had shown it off like a few years back. I'm thinking about the right game right
Oh,
now.
Babylon's Fall.
Yeah, that's it. Babylon Fall is just like,
Babylon's Fall. Yeah.
and then like it's just like a lot of the criticism was like, what happened to this game? It was just like it apparently like it just does not look good.
Yeah. I think, and it sucks too because Square's E3 from 2019 was actually super solid. We got Final Fantasy 8 being remastered and brought to consoles. We got more info. We got Legend of Mana or Trials of Mana remake. We got Obviously more info on Final Fantasy VII remake. Yeah, there's a bunch of solid stuff, and then it's just like this, just like like it's almost just like if we knew it was gonna be this, don't even bother. But there could have been some people who definitely found enjoyment from that, which I guess I understand. But I guess, yeah, moving things right along, we have Ubisoft, and I have never once in my 24 years of existence ever been amazed or taken away by an Ubisoft presentation, and I can tell you this one did not change a thing. Not e-
Biggest
but
big
I think I know why this one excited you.
we got a sequel to
Yes,
Rabbit
it definitely
to
had to be
Rabbids.
this.
It's just like we got more Mr.
Yes.
Crying Ubisoft man. It's just like I was like that was the big thing. I was just like that game came out and it surprised me so much. Like it surprised everyone on paper. Like looking like when that game leaked, it's like everyone was just like, "There's no way that this is a thing." And then it came out and it was just like it was actually really fun and like I had a good time with it and I'm just like oh and like now like it's interesting that they're going into like this more like encounter system thing where like you'll run into a person on the map and then it, like turns into the then it'll go into its own battlefield thing and like I think it'll be interesting with it being like this outer space thing now as well. I'm just like, okay, I enjoyed the first game. I liked the humor of the first game. It was an enjoyable experience. I am down to play a sequel all for this game.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a like super safe, like and not like just very like super safe sequel. I played for some reason I never finished the first Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which is really weird because I remember I bought it on vacation. So I remember it came out and I was like heavily into Splatoon 2 at the time, and I just wouldn't put Splatoon 2 down. And I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna give this a shot. And I remember playing it, and I played it for like 5 to 10 hours, and I was just like, this is awesome. And I was just playing it a lot on vacation. And I think when I just got back from vacation, I don't know what it was, but it was just like it just got kind of lost in the shuffle when I got back from vacation. And for some weird reason, I just never picked it back up again. But from what I remember, like it was very fun, like really charming. The game, it looked really good too, like really freaking good. Um, but that was one of those games to me where I was just like, where's the sequel? Like it was almost like it was like such a heavy hitter and did really well for Nintendo and Ubisoft. It was pretty much we were just at the point of like when and where.
I may I
And it
may
was cool. It was definitely cool to see um the trailer for sure.
the thing is like for that like I was just like it being a Ubisoft game is makes it weird because like with Nintendo properties, like it usually 9 times out of 10, like it's just like just buy it day one. It's never gonna go on sale. But like the fact, like I think when they announced the sequel, like it was like maybe like $5 or $10 for just the base game, or like if you got it digitally, and I think it was like $15 to buy it physically. And I was just like, I think I'm just like I don't think I'm gonna get this day one. I'm gonna try and wait for like a sale on it, cut all to pick it up rather than jumping on it
Yeah,
day
I
one.
I I, I just bought it again for $12.
Yeah, see,
I've
it's
rebought it because I got rid of it after vacation. And it was because of that sale. I was like $12 for a brand new copy of Mario plus Rabbids. Like
oh,
heck yeah, I can manage to play through this before the sequel comes out.
oh, and also
I will say though, what were you saying?
the DLC for that is also a really fun time. Like not like the challenge stuff, but like the
Oh,
Donkey
Donkey
Kong
Kong.
pack. It was just like I forgot. Like I just had a moment where I was like, oh yeah, there was like a real like the DLC for that was even fun, and I was just like it limits your team to like being only 3 people, whereas like in the full game, I think you get a roster of like 6 to 8 people to choose from, and it's just like but like just making it Rabbid Peach um Cranky Rabbit and Donkey Kong, I think like really allowed them to like hone in more and like make it more all like streamlined. So it's just like I'm really looking forward to playing the game. I think it'll be a fun time.
Oh shoot. I will say, I know this is gonna sound crazy, but uh Rainbow's Extraction, Rainbow Six, whatever it's called, Extraction. I actually did watch a little bit of that, and the idea behind that is actually kind of fun. Like it seemed pretty fun to me in the multiplayer. So essentially you're like in some type of building, but you are like I don't essentially like you go through like a wave of enemies with one loadout, and like you can only kind of regroup and recalculate things once you get to the elevator, and then it's the same thing. And I don't know, I was like, you know what, that actually seems kind of fun. But yeah, other than that, yeah, it's actually it's weird because I'm trying to piece together E3 thoughts and presentations, and all I can think about is Nintendo's because that's the only one that really like I was like, hmm. But I guess we could talk about like E3's approach this year. Like, I really want to ask you this: how did you feel about E3 being kind of broken down um into like the that 4 day span? And how do you think they handled that well? And would you prefer that going forward?
I mean, to me, it seems a lot like what like we usually get out of E3. I mean, like well, I mean, it was slightly different because like for E3, usually we get like the 3 or 4 days of the big conferences, and like those are spaced out over a few days. But then like after the conferences, we get like an additional 3 days of people going to the show floor, and then like that's when you get your more in-depth coverage on things and like opinion pieces and everything about what's being shown on the floor. So it was just like, I mean, it didn't feel too different to me for E3. Like it's just like E3, I only ever watch the presentations that I know I want to watch. All I don't really go into things all that like aren't really outside of my wheelhouse. Like because I definitely didn't try and watch all 20 or so of the press conferences, but all
Oh, me neither.
it's what's interesting though is all it is what is actually happening alongside E3. Well, maybe not alongside, but in rivalry with E3. And apparently, there are some weird tweets or things from the organizers that I haven't seen, so I don't really know much about that. But we also have Summer Games Fest going on right now,
Yeah,
and
Jeff Keighley's thing.
and he had a good presentation for kicking that off. And like we may
You
be
know,
seeing we may be seeing more from Sony later this summer because they're partnered with Summer Games Fest as well. And like before
oh yeah.
and I actually wanted to talk to you about one thing. This is like they started off their conference kind of strong with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, Tiny, which is kind of like this D&D all styled sort of like all mythic like all fantasy thing, but all kind of in the style of Borderlands, which I'm kind of excited about. But also how that presentation ended with Elden Ring is just like
Yeah.
the yeah, it's just like I'm not a Dark Souls type person. I'm so like I've I obviously have heard of people talking about Elden Ring and the hype around Elden Ring, but I think you've played more Dark Souls than I have, and you might know a thing or two more about this than me. What did that coming out so ending with the announcement with showing off our first gameplay I believe of Elden Ring and launch date of I think of January 15th 2022.
Wait a second.
It's just like it's like mid
No.
January.
Yeah, 2022.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
so it's just like
Um,
what did you think of that of the Summer Games Fest kickoff and that announcement in particular?
I will say, okay, I will say this. Okay, I gotta be honest. Uh, obviously Jeff Keighley is riddled with, the Mountain Dew and Doritos memes and yada yada yada. But we've been pretty adamant about this. You can definitely tell that the guy's passionate about video games
Me,
and
yeah, like
the medium. So like more power to him. I like what he's doing. And I have to say, um, it was a good show. It was a good show. I mean, there were some games in there, sure, that I could care less about, but I think he did a good job. I think he definitely did better than last year because last year was like, here's the PS5 controller. I'm like, okay. I think he did. Yeah, I think it was great. And yeah, to end it on Elden Ring, we got the director's cut for Death Stranding, which that was a cool little trailer. And yeah, to end it on Elden Ring, which, looked phenomenal. Like, I think he did. I think honestly, great job. Great freaking job. The presentation was good, and to end it on Elden Ring looked phenomenal. We finally got a release date and actual gameplay for that, which was great. And yeah, it's like I just think I think it was good, like I got to give it to him. Like I really didn't think it would be that well. There's also a Metal Slug like tactics game that they announced, which I thought that looked cool. But yeah, no, seriously, I think he did a great job. I thought the presentation was awesome, and yeah, Elden Ring freaking coming out this year. By the way, which is very close to Legends Arceus because we finally got a release date for that, and that's the 28th. So that's gonna be a challenging pick for me. I honestly, it's crazy for me to even think that I'm debating on a Pokemon game and an Elden Ring, but I have to pick one, and I honestly don't know which one I'm gonna pick. But yeah, seriously, I think it was great. What do you think about it? Like, how do you think he handled it compared to last year's and just in terms of game quality?
me,
How do you think he did?
like going back to like the Jeff Keighley Mountain Dew things. It's just like like it's all like you got to pay the bills somehow, and it's just like getting those sponsorships and doing those deals is how he pays the bills. And like he does more things, I feel like he'll be able to get away from that more. But like I didn't really get those vibes at this show. But like last year with things being as they were, and like I think E3 was like plant like was maintaining their stance on having an E3 up until like a month or so ahead of time. So doing Summer Games Fest was very last minute last year. It was a whole it was just great. Like no one like Jeff Grubb from I don't think he's Games Industry Biz. I think I can't remember what site Jeff Grubb is from, but he listed everything on a website last year as Summer Games Mess, rather as instead of Summer Games Fest, where it's just like it listed everything that was going on because a lot of people were saying, like, "Oh, I'm a part of Summer Games Fest. I'm not a part of Summer Games Fest," or and it's just like he just put it up as just a list of everything that was going on, whether they were in Games Fest or not. And it's just like that's kind of the thing. It's just like no one really knew what was going on last year. It's just like a lot of people. Oh, Nintendo has always like had their directs, and a lot of people. Like, I think we saw the state of plays coming out from Sony last year. Started showing up from Sony last year. It was just like it last summer was a free for all, and all like Jeff Grubb. I mean, Jeff Keighley just wanted to continue to try and provide a show, and I don't think last year was what he wanted it to be at all. I think it was him like trying to pull wreckage from the train wreck that was coronavirus. And like this year I think he put together a show that was a lot more what he envisioned, and how like and like the thing is like getting the big name news like things like Elden Ring are a big part of that. So I'll be interested to see if we continue to get Summer Games Fest next year with E3 coming back this year, and probably E3 going to continue to be a thing. So it'll be interesting seeing these two things run in parallel to each other. Oh, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. It's just like I'm excited to see where he goes with it.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think he definitely did a good job at kind of stepping up to the plate and like giving us more of an actual presentation versus just like him kind of talking about like Unreal Engine 5.
Yeah.
Which might is cool, but just like I don't know, it's not really like what's gonna like get me hyped. No, yeah, but yeah, seriously, it's very, very, very solid. Good, I would say, really good way to kick off, like, because summer's always been like the season of like presentations, leaks, like what you can look forward to for the rest of the year, theories, ideas bubbling up, this, that, and the fourth. So he definitely got, my imagination going about like this, that, and the fourth, which was awesome. But I would say in general, it was a pretty tame E3 experience. I'm just kind of, it was good to still feel like E3 because, E3 has always been a big part of like gaming and especially like in that summertime, even as a kid, like watching G4 during like E3 just to, see what was going on. But yeah, no, I'm just glad that it's back and hopefully, next year it'll be I really want to go next year. I feel like it would be awesome to go next year. And I'm hoping that if they do announce it and it'll be open to the public or I'm really, really, really hoping I can go. But no, it was solid. I think for this year, we have a lot to look forward to in terms of releases. There's already been a bunch that has been coming out. There's more coming down the pipeline. And I feel like 2022 is going to be like stacked with stuff. So it's going to be, exciting rest of the year for news and games to come out. And yeah, man, it's going to be pretty awesome. Well,
Alright, I mean,
do you have
you ended
anything
on
on
well, you ended on a happy note, but I thought of this just now. I was just like, I want to ask you this. It's just like, what are two things like what are like two or three things? It doesn't have to be two or three. Just like a small number of things that you really would have loved to have seen at this E3. Is just like for me, I would have loved to have gotten a solid Horizon Forbidden West date. Like we got that as summer part of summer's Game Fest. We got that 15-20 minute long like extended gameplay demo. But it didn't end with a release date, and I was really kind of disappointed to hear the like aiming 2020 all to for Zelda. Like I really thought that was going to be this year. Was there anything that you really would have loved to have seen or things that didn't quite hit the mark for you?
so leading uh I would say no. Which is surprising. And the only reason I'm saying there was nothing I was like okay with how E3 was, and there was like some stuff that I was kind of hoping for that didn't get announced. The only reason I was okay with that is because there has been so much coming out lately to where like I honestly don't even want to think of buying more games just because there's literally been so much coming out. It will I like that that I've been getting that I've been interested in. So like honestly when they showed a game that I liked and it was like coming 2025, I was like, thank gosh. Like I can't even get to it right now. Because there's just I mean we had um Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, Guilty Gear, the the Wonder Boy, Wonder Boy, the fourth one remake, Alex Kidd's coming out. We have Sonic, Colors Ultimate Edition coming out. We got Ni no Kuni 2, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, Skyward Sword HD. Like, there's just so much coming out this year, and I'm just like, I'm okay with how things are looking, like completely okay. Which yeah, also there was Sonic's thing. Just to talk about that briefly, like I thought they did a great job at that Sonic Central thing. I thought that was awesome. I think Sonic Rangers looks good. Sonic Colors, it's nice to get a definitive version of that. And then what's the coolest thing about that, in my opinion, is we're finally getting another remake or another port of Sonic 3 and Sonic 3 Knuckles, which they have not done that since the Gems since the classic collection, I believe on the DS.
Right.
So it's like finally, we get those readily available to us, which is not coming until next year, oddly. But yeah, I think it's been pretty good couple months of news and presentations. I think everyone's done a good job considering what's going on with the world for sure.
All right. Is there anything else that we want to talk about, wrap up with? I think we are slightly over an hour right now, so I think we kind of tapped this.
Yeah, I would
Mm.
say, I definitely think we covered all of our bases in terms of, E3 presentations and everything like that. And obviously, this was just kind of like more off the cuff, just a general discussion about, E3 and presentations and how everything's going like gaming wise, just in terms of E3 and like, not core news or anything like that, which that will obviously hopefully will come next weekend sometime soon, or it'll be a little more like regulated like we've had in the past.
All right, then. I think we're gonna just go ahead and wrap it up for today's episode. So, in the meantime, remember to hit subscribe, smash that like button, and rate, comment, and subscribe. All right. Until then, have a nice day.